Good day, everyone. Welcome to our deep dive into understanding the SQL Server transactional replication process, specifically focusing on a message many administrators encounter. Approximately 9 million log records have been scanned in pass hash 4, zero of which were marked for replication. In this video, we will unpack the meaning behind this message, explore why it occurs, and discuss its implications for your replication setup. Our goal is to provide insights and solutions to optimize your replication performance and ensure your database operates smoothly. Let's get started on demystifying this log reader agent message and enhancing your SQL Server replication topology. So for this video, I have two SQL Server instances installed on the same database server. Okay, the database server is JBSWiki. So I have a default instance which acts as publisher and the distributor. And I have the second instance called JBSWiki/JBS, which acts as the subscriber. Okay, so what I have for this particular default instance, I have a user database here, and this database has got 5 tables. Yeah, and what I've done, I've configured a replication on this particular server, which acts as the publisher and distributor, and it subscribes data to this particular instance. Okay, and I have 3 publications. If you look at it, the first publication, as the name indicates, has got 2 tables in it, table 1 and table 2, and the second publication has got 2 tables, table 3 and 4, and then the third publication has got 1 table, which is table 5. Okay, and if you look at the subscriber details, this particular publication subscribes data to this particular instance. Yeah, so now what I'm going to do is I'm going to update table 1. I'm going to update the top 8 million records, and once the update is completed, what we'll do is we will look at the log reader agent and then see how is it behaving, what messages it is basically giving, and then we will take it from there. Yep. While this particular query completes, let's execute these 2 queries, which basically queries your MS log reader history and MS distribution history. Okay, and what I'm basically doing is I'm querying all the records after 8:30 a.m. Yeah, so time now is 8:49 a.m. So I'm querying everything after 8:30 a.m. Let's execute that. And then if you see here, so right now the replication is very calm. It basically tells there are no replicated transactions available, so everything is good. Now what we'll do, let's wait for this update statement to complete, and once this statement completes, what we'll do is we will look at the replication monitor and then see how the log reader agent is behaving. Yep. Now I'm going to pause this video. I will resume it back once the update statement completes. Cool, so it completed. It took close to 2 minutes 36 seconds. Now what I'll do is I will go to the replication folder and then launch the replication monitor and then see how do my log reader agent behave. Yeah. So if you see here, I'm basically getting a message initializing. Let's look at it. So what we are seeing here is we are looking at this particular message, which is basically approximately 500,000 log records have been scanned in pass hash 4, zero of which is marked for replication. So basically what it is telling is the log reader agent seems to be scanning through the log record, and it basically scanned through 500,000 log records, and out of 500,000 log records, it was able to find not even a single transaction related to replication. Yeah, that's the message that we are seeing here. So let me switch on the auto refresh, and then if you see here, this is what we are seeing. So 500,000, now it has become 1 million. Yeah, approximately 1 million log records have been scanned. So basically, this one basically tells us that the log reader agent is scanning through the transaction log, and what it is seeing is like much of the transaction there basically is related to outside of replication. It's not at all related to replication. Yeah, this is the message that we are getting. And what I understand is like in our setup, at least what I understand is like all the tables that we have are on replication, and there were no replicated transactions. So I just updated this one particular table, which is part of that database. And we know the log reader agent, there will be one log reader agent for per database. So what I understand is like even though I updated a replicated table, we are still getting this message, which is basically um, approximately this many number of log records have been scanned, and zero of which is marked for replication. Yep. So we need to understand like even though we have these user tables, there will be many other system tables which will also be getting updated because of huge write operations. So maybe that is the one that we are basically seeing. So in real world scenario, let's consider like we have a situation like this. I think like the only option would be to basically wait for this particular log scan to complete. So right now, what is happening is like the log reader agent is basically reading the information from the transaction log, yeah, and basically the log reader thread is basically doing its job wherein it is reading through the transaction log and then basically segregates whether it is related to replication and which are not related to replication. Okay, so that is what it is the log reader thread is doing. So as far as the log reader agent is concerned, we have two threads. One is reader thread and the second one is writer thread. And as far as the log reader thread is concerned, it basically reads the transaction log via stored procedure sp_ripple commands. And it scans the transaction log for transactions that are marked for replication, and it will skip the transactions that are not related to replication. So what I understand is like it should be executing sp_ripple commands. Okay, let's go ahead and run sp_ who is active, and then let's see if we have this executed. Yeah, so now if you see here, we have this log reader agent. So this is our log reader agent here. And then if you see here, as I told you, it is basically running this sp_ripple commands, and it is basically scanning through the transaction log. And it is basically marking the transactions which are related to replication and which are not replicated, which are not related to replication. Okay, that is what it is right now doing. Okay, now in this real world scenario, let's consider right now we updated close to 8 million. Let's say someone executed a huge transaction. So how do we know that? Like what is getting executed right now? What is that the log reader agent is scanning through? The problem right now is like log reader agent doesn't read any data related to any tables. It basically reads the log records, and then it basically marks whether it is related to replication and skips that are not related to replication. And then the log reader writer thread basically moves that information across to the distribution database. Okay. So now, if you see here, the log reader thread, basically what it does, it basically scans through your transaction log using the stored procedure sp_ripple commands, and then what it does, it basically like marks the transaction that are marked for replication, and then it skips the skips the transaction that are not related to replication. Okay, and log reader writer thread, what it basically does is like it writes the queued transaction from the log reader thread into the distribution database using the stored procedure sp underscore ms add underscore REPL command. So that's a stored procedure that the writer thread will use. Okay. So right now the sp underscore REPL commands is getting executed by the log reader thread, and it is basically scanning through each and everything on the transaction log. Okay. So now what we'll do is like we need to basically understand which particular table is this log reader agent working through. That's the first thing, because let's consider it is going to be a huge transaction that was executed by mistake or someone executed, and it ended up being a very big transaction, and it has basically brought down the whole replication. At least I have faced this particular scenario several times while working on transactional replication, and I'm sure many other guys would be like having the same scenario. So in that case, what we basically have to do is like we need to first understand what is the table that is involved as far as this particular huge transaction is concerned. At least in our case, we know that the insert that the update that we have done is the root cause, but in real world scenario, it will be like very, very good to understand which particular transaction or which particular table that is causing the problem. That can give us some good amount of information or idea to let us take the decision to solve the problem. Yeah. So now we know that the sp underscore REPL commands is running. The log reader thread is basically doing its job. So now what I'm going to do is like I'm going to run this command sp underscore REPL commands max transaction equal to 1. Yep. So now we know that our log reader thread is reading a lot of information from the transaction log, and as far as the log reader agent is concerned, it basically reads close to 500 transactions. Yeah, each transaction can have several command counts. For example, one transaction, for example, if you're running an update statement on a table, it will be treated as one transaction. And let's consider this update statement is going to update close to 1 million record. So that means like it will be considered as one transaction and 1 million commands. Yeah. So in our case, what I'm going to do, I'm going to run this sp underscore REPL commands stored procedure, and the default value is 500, but in my case I'm just going to run max trans is equal to 1. So I will tell the sp underscore REPL commands to stop as soon as it completes one transaction. Okay, so let me start it now. If I start it, I'm getting an error stating like only one log reader agent or a log related procedure sp underscore REPL commands REPL done can run. Yeah, this seems to be a message which basically tells like you cannot run this command when another sp underscore REPL commands is running. Yeah, so in our case we know that the log reader agent is currently running it. So to understand what is going on, what I'm going to do is like I'm basically going to stop the log reader agent. Okay, the problem with stopping the log reader agent is like, let's consider we have the log reader agent has done a quite amount of data, like quite amount of work, like it has basically read through a lot of information from the transaction log. Now when you stop the log reader agent, what will happen is like all the work that the log reader agent has done till now will basically be rolled back. Yeah, and when you start it again, it will have to redo the whole job again. So that is going to be a biggest problem right now. But in our scenario, we are in a situation where this log reader agent is just running. So we are troubleshooting right now. So I'm going ahead and stopping the log reader agent. But the problem is like when you stop the log reader agent, whatever work was done till now by the log reader agent will all be rolled back. Yeah, so that is something that you need to keep in mind. Now what I'm going to do, I'm going to run this particular command one more time. Yeah, this sp underscore ripple commands at max trans is equal to 1. And let's see like what we see here. Okay, so right now what I'm seeing is like for article ID 19, we are doing a lot of commands here. Yeah, there is only one transaction that has happened on article ID 19, but that seems to be like too much. So what we'll do now, we will wait for this to complete. In the meantime, let's check what is article ID 19. Okay, so select star from MSARTICLES. First, let's run this. So I'm getting this error. Let's run it in the distribution database. So what I'm seeing is like I'm seeing that article ID 19 is table 1, and now I can understand this is basically pointing to, so article ID 19 is table 1, and this command that is executing is basically telling like we are the command that the log reader agent is basically scanning through is basically coming from article ID 19, and we know that article ID 19 is table 1, and we know that we have done a 8 million update on this table 1. Yeah, that's one information that we have. So now now that we know like it is happening on table 1, it would be good if we can understand what commands are getting executed. Okay, so at least like if you see here, what I'm seeing here is like uh, it was like close to 7.8 million. So this one transaction has close to 7.8 million. So we know that our update statement is close to 8 million. So this way you will be able to understand on which particular table this transaction has happened. And now if you execute this query, which basically is your sp underscore show ripple commands, if you execute that, that can give you some good information. So for example, if you see here, it basically tells like, let's close this. So we know that article ID 19 is table 1, so let's close it. So if you see here, it is basically telling like there was an update on the table 1, and it is basically, this is the value 678. Now let's look at our update here. And if you see here, this is the same update. Yeah, so update top 8 million table 1 set column 3 is equal to 678, and now if you see here, it is the same thing. 678 is the value here. So this way we are able to understand like the log reader thread is scanning through a huge transaction. Yeah, it is a single transaction, but this single transaction holds data. In our case, it would be close to 8 million. Yeah, so if you wait for another 2 or 3 minutes, you will be able to understand that. So now the problem is like this being a small transaction. Let's consider 8 million is something like we will be able to complete it in like maybe like 30 minutes or 45 minutes. But let's consider this happens on your real world replication setup on a production environment. Using this method, you will be able to understand like on which table this transaction has happened and how many transaction has happened. Like if you are willing to wait till then, let's consider it's a huge transaction. At least you will be able to wait for like 5-10 minutes, and then you can come to a conclusion like, okay, yeah, this one transaction seems to have so many updates. With that information in hand, you can get the values as well, and then you can go back to your application team, provide them like this is what we are seeing right now, wherein there was a huge update on this particular table, and you can get more details. For example, if the application team is going to tell you that yes, there was a huge transaction that was done by us, and it is close to like 1 billion or say 10 million or whatever they tell you. Based on that, you can take the decision. So you can again give this information back to the application team, and then in case the application team is requesting us to let this update pass through, then what we need to do is like the only option would be to wait for the reader thread to complete, and then the writer thread to write the information on distribution database, and then your distribution agent to move the data to subscriber. Okay, and if you can't wait for this transaction to complete, then what we can do is like we can reinitialize the whole publication. That's going to be the last resort solution. But yeah, in case if this is going to scan through a huge lot of data and it is taking a lot of time, then one solution would be to reinitialize the subscription. Or what you can do is like we can ask if the transaction can be skipped, and then you can do a sp underscore REPL done, and then you after the REPL done you will have to reinitialize the subscription. But in case if the application team tells you that they don't need this particular transaction, just this transaction, then what we can do is like we can just open this publication and then uncheck this particular table, yeah, and then you can click on OK. So that means like what will happen is like the log reader agent will skip this particular transaction, yeah. So let's go ahead and stop it, and then what we'll do is like we will start this log reader agent, yeah. Let's go ahead and start the log reader agent. Now let's wait for it to either start or fail. Now in our case, we're getting an error here, which basically tells like only one log reader agent or log related procedure can connect. And you know that we know this. What is this message? Yeah. In our case, we know that it is not running anymore because we have stopped it here. Yeah. So it clearly tells like the SPID 54 is basically running this, yeah, and that is not letting this log reader agent to start, yeah. So what we have to do is like we basically have to close that session ID for the log reader agent to progress, yeah. Now after I closed it, let's go ahead and stop it and then start it, and then wait for it to either start or fail again, but this time I'm pretty sure it will complete. It will start. So let's give it a couple of more minutes. As soon as we remove that article table 1, if you can see here, everything went fine. Like now if you can see this log reader agent has worked just fine. Now let's go to the replication monitor, go to this publication, and then let's insert a tracer token here. And if you can see here, the publisher to distributor is done. That is from your transaction log to the distribution database, and then from the distribution database to the subscriber. So as soon as we remove that particular article table 1 from the publication, the issue got resolved. Okay, so in real world scenario, let's consider you had the same problem and then you identified that this is the article that is causing the problem. You can have a word with your application team and then come to a conclusion whether you need that particular transaction, whether that is a normal transaction, and if it is a normal transaction, and if the command count is very high for that transaction, the only option is to wait for that particular log reader scan to complete. The log reader thread has to complete its work and put the information, and then the writer thread has to get that queued information and put it into the distribution database, and then the distribution agent has to move the data across, and you basically have to wait for it. And what we can do is like if you have an update statement or a write operation onto a table, a huge transaction, then what you can do is like you instead of moving each and every command to the subscriber, there is an option to update or do the write operation using a stored procedure. Like you can use the stored procedure to do that write operation, and you can replicate that stored procedure. And that way, what will happen is like it will not be sending each and every individual command to a subscriber. If you use this stored procedure replication and then you update or do the write operation using the stored procedure, then it gets moved right away to the subscriber. That is one thing that you can do. And also, you will get this message is approximately several million log records have been scanned and passed for, 0 of which were marked for replication. For example, if you have too many VLF files, yeah. So how you can check that on the database, user database, run this command dbcc log info, and then look for the number of VLF files. So in my case, I have 20 counts. That means like my transaction log, that is the user database transaction log, has got 20 VLF, yeah. Anything above 1,000 according to me is very bad. Anything you can have anything from below 1,000 should be okay, but if you want to be like very if you're very concerned about that, then keeping it around 200 would be a really a healthy one, yeah. So I'm not going to give any recommendation on the number of VLFs because it all depends. You don't have any hard and fixed value for that. But yeah, you can set it in case if you have too many VLFs due to small auto growths, then that can cause this issue wherein the log reader agent has to scan through each and every log records. So that is something that you can definitely have a look in case if you can't skip that particular transaction, which is basically making your log reader agent to do a lot of work. One more reason why you will get this messages. One is huge transaction, yep, and second one is like too many VLFs, and third one can be like there is a genuine lot of non-replicated transactions on the database. For example, let's consider you have 10 tables. Out of these 10 tables, 5 tables are part of replication and 5 tables are not part of replication. Okay, 5 tables are part of replication and 5 tables are not part of replication. And if you do a lot of changes on those 5 tables which is not part of replication, then the same, all those informations will be written to your transaction log, and then your log reader agent has to basically scan through each and every log record, and in case of the non-replicated tables transactions are very high, then it has to basically scan through each and everything and then basically has to segregate it as replicated and non-replicated, and then it will be packing that 500 transactions, yeah. So in case if you have too many non-replicated transactions, then the log reader agent has to do a lot of work. So one thing what you can do is like one thing that you can do is like you can run a command select count star from FNDB log. That is something that you can definitely run and check. The problem is like if you have too many row counts. For example, if you have too many records on the transaction log, like too many log records that it has to scan through, then it will take good amount of time. Yeah. So if you run these two things, you will get a value for the first one, which is basically like the overall count on the transaction log, and the second one is just only the replicated transactions, and then you subtract the first one with the second one, and then you will be able to understand like that many row counts are related to non-replicated, and that way you will be able to understand which one has got higher count, and then you can come to a conclusion. But after you come to a conclusion that there are too many non-replicated transaction on the transaction log, the entries of those transaction in the transaction log, at max what you can do is like you can wait for this particular log reader scan process to complete. There is nothing much you can do to make it fast. Yeah, you basically have to wait for it to complete, or you need to go ahead and reinitialize the whole subscription. So that is what you need to do. So it is either wait for it, or you need to go ahead and do the reinitialize. Most of the times reinitialize will be faster, but the problem is like it all depends on the production environment, like how critical is it, and whether reinitialize is possible or not. If reinitialize is not possible, then the option would be to wait for the scan to complete. That's it for this video. Thanks for watching. Have a great day. Jai Hind.